Part 5. Virtue, suffering, and the higher type. So far, we've talked about how Nietzsche dismantles traditional ideas of morality, truth, and even the nature of philosophy. But where does that leave us? What kind of life should we live? What kind of human should we strive to become? Nietzsche's answer is provocative. He says we need a new ideal, a different kind of virtue, a higher human type. But there's a catch. This new way of living won't be easy. In fact, it's going to hurt. Let's talk about suffering, virtue, and the raw, painful path to greatness. The problem with modern virtue. Let's start with a tough question. What do we actually mean when we say someone is virtuous? In modern society, it usually means kind, humble, obedient, unselfish. Someone who plays nice and doesn't rock the boat. Nietzsche, he sees this version of virtue as hollow. He calls it a product of slave morality, the same system we talked about earlier that flipped values upside down. Instead of celebrating strength, ambition, and boldness, we started glorifying weakness, meekness, and suffering. Nietzsche thinks this kind of virtue is a cage. It keeps us small. It teaches us to shrink ourselves to fit into a moral mold. But here's the kicker. Virtue, to the noble soul, is the result of a long struggle and overcoming of self. Virtue isn't about being tame. It's about being powerful and knowing how to direct that power. Cruelty and creation. Okay, deep breath, because now we get into the controversial stuff. Nietzsche makes a claim that freaks people out. All great things must first wear terrifying and monstrous masks in order to inscribe themselves upon the hearts of humanity. And sometimes, those masks include cruelty. Now, don't get it twisted. Nietzsche isn't celebrating cruelty for its own sake. He's not saying, go be a sadist, or hurt others because you can. But he is saying that life, in its deepest form, is not nice. It's raw, violent, full of struggle. And that even the greatest art, the highest knowledge, the most profound wisdom, often come from places of pain. To create something beautiful, you have to cut away what isn't essential. That process can feel brutal, it can hurt. And sometimes, to overcome yourself, to grow, you have to be cruel to the parts of you that are weak, lazy, or afraid. Nietzsche calls this self-cruelty, and he believes it's essential to becoming strong. The discipline of suffering, of great suffering. Do you not know that only this has created all enhancements of man so far? That line hits hard. He's not romanticizing suffering. He's saying, it's the forge. It's where transformation happens. Beyond pity. The noble way to suffer in modern times, we're often told to avoid suffering at all costs. And when others suffer, we're told to pity them. Nietzsche, he has a problem with both of those ideas. Let's take them one at a time. First, avoiding suffering. Nietzsche thinks this is a trap. If you live your whole life just trying to avoid pain, you'll never experience depth, never grow, never discover who you really are. Comfort zones are cages. Second, pity. Nietzsche saw pity as a subtle form of control. When we pity someone, we often place ourselves above them, emotionally or morally. It turns their suffering into our emotional experience. He writes, pity makes suffering contagious. It weakens us. It pulls us down into a shared helplessness. Now, that doesn't mean Nietzsche was cold or heartless. He just believed there was a more powerful response than pity. Respect for someone else's struggle. A belief that they can grow from it, that they are strong enough to face it. In other words, honor the suffering. Don't wallow in it. Who is the higher type? So, who is this higher type Nietzsche keeps talking about? Well, they're not necessarily rich, or famous, or even traditionally successful. But they are rare. They're the ones who live by their own values, not society's. Face suffering head-on, and grow from it. Aren't afraid of solitude, silence, or being misunderstood. Don't seek approval. They seek transformation. These people, Nietzsche says, live on a different plane. They don't crave comfort or status. They crave becoming. He writes, what is noble? That one instinctively seeks heavy responsibilities. Yeah. Let that one simmer. The noble person, the higher type, wants pressure, not to be a martyr, but to test their strength, to carry more, to become more. Virtue is power, not obedience. Here's where Nietzsche flips the script on modern ethics. To him, real virtue is not about saying no to your desires. It's about saying yes to your power and learning how to channel it. It's not about taming the beast inside you, it's about training it. What is freedom? To be capable of having the heaviest burden. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want, whenever you want. It's about taking ownership, responsibility, even pain. Think about people you admire, not just for what they achieved, but for how they lived. Chances are, they walked through fire, and they chose to walk through it. That's what Nietzsche means by virtue. Why this matters right now. In a world full of distractions, comfort culture, and instant gratification, Nietzsche's ideas feel almost alien. Who wants to hear that suffering is necessary, that virtue might require cruelty, that being good might not be the same as being noble? But maybe that's exactly why we need to hear it, because we're told every day to be small, to be safe, to stay in line. And maybe deep down, some part of us is screaming, there has to be more than this. Nietzsche would say, there is. But it's on the other side of fear, pain, and letting go of who you think you're supposed to be. It's not a comfortable path, but it's a powerful one. And it leads somewhere few ever go. Let's recap. Nietzsche redefines virtue as power, not obedience. He sees suffering as essential, not something to avoid, but to learn from. And he calls us to become the higher type, not by rising above others, but by rising above ourselves. Coming up in part 6. Nietzsche takes aim at nationalism, culture, and the dream of a united Europe, plus his final reflections on what it really means to be noble.